Hello, everyone, and welcome to Ful-on, your Fulham-centric football podcast. I'm your host, Ash Woolford. Joining me today for our Spurs review is the OGs. AJ, firstly, before we start, welcome. Obviously, I just want to say thank you for covering the last couple of episodes on your own.
No bother at all. Happy to help. I'm not too bad, mate. Very, very excited to have some people to bounce off this week.
Yeah, it'd be helpful, wouldn't it? Drew, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm doing well, my friend. Good to see you all.
Good to have you on, mate. And Mozza, how you doing, mate?
Very good, thank you, mate. Lovely to be back with you all.
Yeah, let's get on. Let's talk about the game. Obviously, we're here to talk about Fulham's 2-1 win away at White Hart Lane, and we're going to call it that last night. Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, you know, the modern toilet bowl. Tottenham had a shitter, didn't they? Let's talk about it. Right, AJ, we always come to you to talk about team lineups. Obviously, in your match preview, you spoke about what you're expecting from the team. What did you think of the lineup? Were you happy not to see that double pivot start?
You know, I was pleasant. Yeah, I was very pleasantly surprised. I thought Kevin would have got his run out to try and make up for the previous fixture, but I think it was impossible to ignore Chukwueze's performances off the bench of recent, and he deserved this start. And well, the rest speak for itself, and we'll get onto it in a little while. But no, I thought the lineup, considering our injuries and who we had available, was near perfect.
Yeah, I think the best way to sort of describe the game is it was like 8 to 10 minutes of absolute bliss, and then the rest of the time just absolutely shitting yourself waiting for Fulham to mess it up. So, Drew, obviously, you know, dream start to a game, right? When was the last time Fulham started a game of football like this? You know, that first 10 minutes was just superb.
Is that a real question? Because I can't remember. My memory's not that good. Because this season has been. I mean, we had the first half at Chelsea, which we were excellent, but I think one of the things that really helped us, and don't get me wrong, I thought we played well, and I thought Marco looked up for it. I thought the team looked up for it, but we can't talk about the game without talking about Spurs, and that brand new stadium has become a massive albatross around their neck, and after I laughed my ass off at the end of the game, because I'm sick and I have a few issues and I can't afford therapy, so I tend to go on other fans' websites and I look at their podcasts. And right now I've got about 8 alt accounts cooking because I like flaming people. People that you get all sorts of accounts. You get football accounts, you get people with talk about real issues that affect them, like disabilities and stuff like that. So it's cool. People that can't walk, I like just say I'm just going to sit at home even though my legs work and stuff. But with the Spurs fan podcast, they're toxic. They are toxic. And the one thing I will say about Fulham fans, okay, we all have our disagreements, but they are nowhere near as toxic as other London-based fans. You look at, for example, West Ham. Yeah, Upton Park used to be a fortress, a real community hub. Hammers cannot wait to get out the London Stadium as soon as they get there. And I am just wondering whether at Tottenham, it's a magnificent arena for football, but whether it's become a bit of a tourist trap, because the atmosphere was tense and you could feel that. And Fulham, they capitalised brilliantly on the opening mistakes Tottenham made. But let's be honest, Tottenham were Mickey van der Ven away from being 4-0 down at half time.
Yeah.
100%. I don't think we are going to have an easier first half of football away from home this season. And that is to take nothing away from how Marco set the team up, how hard they worked, how together they were. But wow, that's the first time we've been beaten them in 12 years. That's right, AJ? Is it 13?
It was 12, yeah.
12.
Yeah.
And even after they scored, were we in trouble? No. I mean, yeah, we thoroughly deserved it, but they are in all sorts of trouble.
Yeah, I agree. You know, I've never heard a set of fans boo their own team during a game to the level that Tottenham were last night. You know, Vicario's he's not a rookie goalkeeper by any sense of the word. And we know he's had a tough couple of months, right? But the level of hate he was getting during the game last night was mental. I know he made a mistake and it was catastrophic and we scored from it. You know, we'll talk about that in a sec. But the level, it was so toxic. And I know that I often moan about, you know, mistakes Leno makes. And I'll do that when we talk about the goal we conceded in a minute too. But I've never, ever booed a player while he's on the pitch. I booed a team off, you know. I've told players to get off. I've never, ever booed a player while he's playing. You know, I've used choice words while they're running with the ball and, you know, don't know what they're doing, but that's different. It was really bad, you know, and we can concentrate on Tottenham, but we don't need to. Let's talk about us. Let's talk about the things we did well last night, you know, because I think that you're 100% spot on. I think that Marco did a great job at sort of reading Tottenham and how to set up and how to start. And, you know, even though that we sort of let Tottenham keep the ball, they weren't doing anything with it. And it wasn't till like they scored in the second half that they looked like they might. And I think that was just because maybe nerves maybe stepped in a bit for us. But let's talk about us and our two goals. Mozza, the first goal, Chukwueze, lovely run with him. He's so good with the ball at his feet. It's about time he got a start, and it was almost instantly sort of paid back for Marco for making that decision to let him start. Lovely run, lovely jerk between in between 3 or 4 Spurs players. A bit fortunate with the ball through to Kenny Tete that, you know, one Tottenham player was maybe misfooted, and then obviously a little bit of luck with the shot from Tete. But it's a great opening goal, great bit of play by Chukwueze.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's really earned his place in the starting 11 there. His performance the whole game. In fact, he's definitely proven that he deserves it. And I was really surprised that he had been picked. So I don't know what influenced Marco's decision there. I think as well, it was I was a bit shocked at what the bench was saying, but I couldn't argue actually with what the starting lineup was. More of that, please. We need more of that. I mean, I was surprised how quickly we scored. Well, both goals. I was worried that we'd scored too early. If I can just very quickly go back to the end of what Drew was saying, because I do actually disagree with what he said there about us looking like that Tottenham were going to do anything more after they scored. Sorry, I'm skipping ahead to the second half, but I feel like it wouldn't be fair of me to talk about this, and I'm not trying to be a negative Nelly, but I don't want to be talking about it in a way like just glossing over the mistakes. I got really frustrated comparing those two halves together. I felt like we began playing like a team that were fatigued and didn't actually want to win the game. Come the second half, to be quite honest, I thought it was quite hairy. I thought we were lucky to come away with anything. I think we were the better side overall. I know we'll get to it, but I just thought there was an awful lot of eyebrow raising moments in the latter half of the game, which I do think we should be concerned about as we're speaking about us in our performance. But look, what do I know? We won the game. We got 3 points. Massive 3 points.
Well, I think if you look at it, the end of that game screams a team that haven't won away all season. You know, there was a lot. You could see the panic is setting a bit, and there was a lot of like backs to the wall. We're actually worried about what's going on here. And I think that's natural. That's going to happen when you haven't won away all season. You know, we used to see it all the time when we used to have absolutely shocking away form almost every single Premier League season. We always used to throw games away, and it was just good that we managed to get through and managed to see it out. You know, and I think that games like this will build that confidence up, and it will only lead to better performances away from home in the future because they'll have more confidence going in. If you look at last season away from home, how good were we away from home last season? Part of the reason why is we got 1 or 2 really good results, and it just bled into future games. And I think that yesterday's result can only help but push us further up there with that. Hey Jay, let's talk about Harry Wilson's goal, because the technique is amazing, right? I know it's an open goal. I know that Vicario thought he was Pedro Porro for a minute and decided he was going to be a left back, and none of the Tottenham defenders decided, oh, maybe one of us should go cover the goalkeeper who's out of position. But the vision for Harry Wilson to call for the ball from Josh King and the whip and the placement of that shot was world class from him. And it's the only thing, the one player on the pitch that you would want that shot to fall to. It was excellent.
Absolutely tremendous. It's Harry Wilson called for it earlier than he received it as well, and then called for it a second time, received it, and didn't even deliberate on what he was doing. He knew straight away exactly how to put it, where he wanted to put it, and it was just sublime. It's one of those, it was everything you'd want from that position, and taking advantage of a goalkeeper being completely in no man's land. Yes, there's question marks of the Spurs defence, why none of them dropped back to cover the goalkeeper to stand on the goal line. I feel like that's defending 101, and it's a bit daft that they can't seem to pick that up themselves. But Harry Wilson's goal is just a thing of beauty. It's second longest range goal this season, outside of another goal that happened yesterday in the Bournemouth game.
Yeah, but the technique for it is brilliant. It's a bit different from lobbing a keeper from 45 yards because he's off his line, and having the technique to score from out wide like that. And we were unlucky not to be 3-0 up a couple of minutes later when Chukwueze first of all obviously ran into the box and sort of got the ball stuck under his feet a little bit, won a corner. From that corner, ball comes out to him at the edge of the box. He beats the defender, whips it, and hits the outside of the post. If that had gone 3-0, I genuinely don't know what I would have done, because I was nervous enough at 2-0 about what we could do with how we could throw a game away. But it was brilliant football. And as Drew said, without Mickey van der Ven, we go into that half-time 4-5 goals to the good. He was superb after that sort of first 10-15 minutes. And the tackle on Chukwueze when he broke through, rounded the keeper, and then only had the tap in, is some of the best defending I've seen in a very long time. And Tottenham are exceptionally lucky to have a defender of his quality in there. That's really it for the first half. Not really much happens for the rest of the first half, other than Fulham let Tottenham have the ball, and they don't do anything with it other than 17 crosses. And I think they didn't find the stat at half time was they had 17 crosses, not a single one was met by a Tottenham player. That's shocking from them. For the amount of money they spent on their squad, I'd be embarrassed with that. You look at the second half though, and I think none of us are too shocked what really happened coming out in the second half. Tottenham did that thing where they gave themselves 10 minutes to get back into the game, didn't make any subs at half time. We were never going to make any subs at half time in that position. You look at how the game then unfolds, and it basically just becomes a game of attack versus defense. Tottenham are just completely attacking us, and we aren't doing much with it. When we have the ball, we're just trying to get it up the pitch as quick as we can to sort of relieve the defense. Their goal comes about through a poor clearance by Harry Wilson. He just mishits the clearance he's trying to make, and it slices across the front of the goal, comes out to the edge of the box. He then gets out wide. And kudos, to be fair to him, he absolutely smacks it. But I can't pretend I'm not annoyed at Leno being beaten at his near post again. We often have this conversation about Leno and the saves he makes that saves us in games. He gets beaten like this maybe once or twice too often in a season. Frustrating goal to concede. But that's when the game really starts, as soon as we go 2-1 down. Drew, the rest of the game after we go 2-1 down was really nervy, right? I know that we always sit there and we talk amongst ourselves as Fulham fans about how are we going to mess this up. But how nervous were you as soon as the game went to 2-1?
I got to be honest. I mean, the stats look like they were massively in Tottenham's favour, but I can't. I go back to the point I made at the top of the show. I never feel that when we play Tottenham that we're ever out of it, because if things start to go against them, and I think this has got something to do with the club's DNA and the club's culture. I don't think it's to do with the players or the management. I think it's something more fundamental than that. They just don't seem to handle adversity or pressure well. I describe them as having a soft underbelly, and I can't really think of the game became much more even, but any chance or any changes they made, Marco seemed to neutralise anyway with his substitutions, and we kept them at bay. And I knew that we were going to win when there was only 4 minutes of extra time, because I mean it seemed to be everything going our way. And like I said, at the inside the stadium, amongst the Tottenham fan base, they were almost talking defeat into reality. There was no general belief that they were going to turn it around. And as you say, I mean, Kudus' shot was powerful and it was good, but Leno at the near post, I think you should be expecting, a goalkeeper of his experience and his size to be saving that. I can't think of too many other times where they completely opened us up. So, I mean, it would have been very Fulham-like to throw it away, but no. If we'd been playing someone else, then yeah. But there's something fundamentally wrong with the culture at Spurs.
I think I agree. Yeah. I think I was nervous more because being a Fulham fan, we could be 5-0 up and I'd be worried that somehow we'd mess it up. It is what it is. But I think when we finished the game,
Ash, then
that's definitely that's my brain, that's my mentality, not anything else. I want to talk about Marco subs actually quickly, AJ, because we often moan about them, but I was very happy with the subs he made during the game yesterday. Bringing on Smith Rowe for King. I think King had got a bit leggy, so it wasn't too shocking. I thought Smith Rowe played really well when he came on. I thought he had a lot of running in legs, and it's been a long time, if at all, we've said that since he's been a Fulham player. I thought he did a lot of running. And Lukic came on for Wilson, and we were worried about that double pivot coming back, but I think it actually helped us in a way because it sort of sterned up the middle of the pitch where we'd lost a bit of control. They were good subs to make. I then have to admit that Chukwueze going off and Kevin coming on was a bit confusing for me. I would have taken off Iwobi, but we know that Marco has rules where Iwobi always has to be on the pitch no matter what position he's playing in. So, that says what it is. But I thought Kevin did well when he came on too, trying to stretch the play, especially at that time of the game where all you're basically trying to do is relieve the pressure on the defence and sort of stretch out as much as you can. The calmness he had, especially in that last couple of minutes where he had that moment where he won the ball when Tottenham were breaking and he backheeled it between two of their players to sort of give Cess a bit of relief to run the ball up the line. It was cool and it was calm. It hadn't come off. People would be moaning, but it did come off, so we can applaud it. It was great. And bring Castagna on, I think, helped too. I was concerned that we dropped completely to a back five, but I think realistically what had happened, as AJ said in our group chat, is it just left give us a bit more width because that Tottenham were beating us a lot out on the wing at that point, and it calmed that side of their game down. I think Drew's correct in the sense of a lot went for us in that game. 4 minutes added time for me wasn't enough. I think Leno took more than that, just taking a couple of goal kicks. So, we often get screwed with stuff like that. I was expecting at least 11, so I'll take it. Lads, let's obviously we're all elated with the result. We're happy with the result. It's good to take forward. We've got Man City on Tuesday, which is going to be an exceptionally tough game, even though it's at home. But let's finish this one how we always do. Let's talk about our honourable mentions and man of the matches. Mozza, I'll start with you, mate. Can I have your honourable mentions and man of the match, please?
Yeah, for sure. Well, we've spoken about the man already. Honourable mentions would be for Chukwueze. Yeah, I thought he was brilliant. Hope he starts again, especially our next game, as you mentioned, with Man City incoming. Also, I think Josh King had a superb game. I don't think there's been a game that I've watched him playing where I haven't said that yet. But my man of the match is our very own Flying Dutchman, Kenny Tete. I thought he was superb. Yeah, lovely to see him score, even though he might have got a bit lucky, but I just thought he completely controlled our back line as well. Yeah, and his work rate was top notch.
Yeah, it's fair enough. And Drew, how about yourself, mate? Honourable mentions of the man of the match.
Honourable mentions. Obviously, Chucks. I mean, playing him on the left wing enabled him to attack the byline and force Tottenham further back. I know he prefers playing on the right wing, but it does give us real options when you've got a player that can go outside and get to the byline, like I've said. I thought, I mean, Keno obviously for his goal. Harry Wilson, I mean, it would have been really unfair to drop him and play Kevin. And he deserves his place in the team right now. Ironically enough, there's talk about him and Adama moving on, but I know which one I'd rather keep. Obviously, we're going to have to deal with that in January, but yeah, he was great. But for me, the man of the match, and it's probably the one defender we haven't really spoken about yet, was Anderson. Because he had some really timely blocks, didn't panic, played a real captain's role. And I think he was very in tune with the atmosphere and what was going on in the crowd. And he was definitely a good authoritative figure on our side. So, I mean, the other honourable mention, but it goes without saying, that's Raul, who I think just deserves a Purple Heart. Oh, no, we're not. This is not America. This is St. George's Cross, because he just runs and runs and runs. And I'm frightened. I just dread to think what we'll do without him. But yeah, Anderson's my man of the match.
Yeah, I think it's a fair shout. We'll talk about. I'll talk about Rayo in a second. AJ, how about yourself, mate? What's your honourable mention and your man of the match, please?
I'm going to start by doing something I've never done before and give an honourable mention to an opposition player, because my God, Van der Ven has to be the single best defender in the league. It's ridiculous. That aside, and back to Fulham players, Sessegnon has to get a resounding applause for me. Aside from the one instance where obviously Kudos scored, he pocketed him pretty much the entire game. Which for someone that isn't a natural left back is quite impressive. Anderson, as Drew said, there was a moment in the game where Spurs had a clean shot on sight, and the only player not stood still was Anderson, who went in for a slide block and managed to get the ball out of play and prevent a goal. So there's that. But my man of the match has to go to Chukwueze, I think. Purely due to his natural creative instincts. And if it wasn't for, as I said, the single best defender in the league, he would have had probably 2-3 goals on his own. So I have to give my man of the match to Chukwueze.
Yeah, it's a fair shout. For me, honourable mentions, Drew said it, Rail, for me, it was outstanding. He didn't stop running the whole game. We know he's not training correct at the moment because he's still slightly injured. He's getting on. His legs aren't working as well. But he did not stop running at all in that game at Spurs, except for that one moment where he thought he was LeBron James. It was almost perfect football performance by him without scoring. You know, you're going to have a striker who doesn't score. You want him to have a game like he did because he was causing problems just by being where he was. He won almost every header that he went up for. You know, and for once, we're not moaning about the fact he wasn't taken off, because I think his outlet was proving to be a lot of relief on the defense during times of pressure. So I understood why he stayed on. What that means for Man City on Tuesday, we'll discuss that in the preview for that one in a minute. But you know, it's not great for me. Cess obviously deserves a shout because he's, for someone who's not a natural left back, I think he's been brilliant the last couple of weeks. I'm starting to have to lose that ability to say he's not a left back, because I think he might be starting to prove he is, because he's doing a decent job of it. But my man of the match is Anderson. He read the game brilliantly. He did that thing that all good captains do, and he knows when to take a foul and go down and stay down for a couple of minutes because the team needs a bit of a breather. You know, he knows when to talk to the ref. He knows when to moan. He was clearly riling up a lot of the Spurs players because they were getting at him about little things, and it was working, and it worked, and it did work. You know, I think Fulham on Saturday, weirdly, as the away team, had Tottenham fans helping them more in that game than anything, because of how toxic that whole environment had become for them. What we do know naturally from the game is that Fulham are now unbeaten against Tottenham in 4, and Thomas Frank is Marco Silva's bitch. So we'll just we'll leave it at that and move on. Lads, thanks very much for joining me this one. I'll see you in a minute, actually, when we record our Man City preview, which will be out at lunchtime today. After this one's out, obviously now ready for the game tomorrow night. See you all soon. Come on, you Whites.